Howdy, Therians! Welcome to another episode of the DNR Brainstorm, the show where each week myself or Robert Wiesahan answer your general DM questions. This one comes to us from Patrick M. He asks how I come up with voices for the show, how I assign a voice to a character, or how to practice doing different voices. This one we gotten a few times actually throughout the run of the show. Every time I introduce a voice, it seems like someone sends in a question similar to this. So, unless you want all your characters to sound the same, which is fine, it completely depends on the DM, then you're going to have to start dipping into some voices. Now, I had the privilege of doing the show on Skype when we first started, and that helps because when you're standing in front of your friends, it's a little different. You will get nervous. I mean, the more outlandish the voice is, the more you're waiting for them to kind of laugh. Especially with Group 1. When we started with Group 1, I specifically remember the Black Hand episode where I had a voice in my head for what that character was going to sound like. Practiced it at work. Thought about it, and then when we got to the episode, I just bitched out. I totally didn't do the voice I was going to do because I know for a fact that particular group would have torn me to shreds. And that's fine. But eventually, people are going to kind of accept it after they hear it a couple of times, and especially, they know I'm going to do some kind of voice for a character. So they just kind of like let it slide, and they actually like wait for it now because, if you do it right, then when they hear that voice, they're going to associate that voice with a character. Continuity is a big thing. Once you pick a voice, kind of stick with it. Don't change it up too much. We've only had a couple of big departures voice-wise, like Carter. That's going to be a big departure voice-wise. Valis' voice has gotten a little gruffer, a little deeper over time. As far as practicing voices, a good place to do that is the car. I've talked about it a couple of times on the show. If you drive alone, specifically, if you're carpooling with someone, that could be weird. But if you're in the car by yourself and you have a commute to work, even if it's like 10, 15, 20 minutes, it's a good time to just kind of practice a voice or two. Start thinking about what that character's personality is, what race they are, if it's an elf, if it's a dwarf. Start to kind of fool around with your voice a little bit. If I've been doing goofy voices since I was a little kid, like mimicking cartoons, try to sound as close to that as possible, just to make my brother and sister laugh, really. So that is a useless skill to build up. That unless you're going into voice work or you're going to be a DM, that's a skill that will almost never come in handy. So try to just mess with the pitch and tone of your voice. Make it a little deeper, make it a little higher pitched, and then from there you can kind of tweak it. You'd be surprised actually what you come up with based on a character's personality. Once you have that, you'll find what that character's voice should be. Like you'll kind of hear it and it's like, oh, that's what it should be. That's totally it. Accents are another thing. Even if it's a bad accent, it's okay. I've listened to several audiobooks. There's an audiobook series by Christopher Moore, and most of the lady reading it, the Bloodsucking Fiends trilogy, the lady reading it, the main character is one of the most nasally, annoying voices I've ever heard, but eventually I just accepted it. It's just one of those things. Once you hear it a couple of times, even if it hits your ear terrible the first time you hear it, you'll just accept it after a while. It's like, oh, that's just that character's voice. It's like meeting someone in real life and you go, ooh, that's a weird voice. But eventually you just kind of accept it, even if it's the most outlandish thing you've ever heard. So, don't back down. Once you've found a voice for somebody, stick with it. Singing is another, like, again, if you're in the car, like I listen to all the epic rap battles of history and I like memorize the lyrics and sing along with it because they do a lot of voice work, and it's a fun way to kind of exercise your voice and see what you can do with it. And that's been, I haven't used any of those voices on the show, but it is kind of like nice voice exercises, because the more you do it, the better at it you'll get, or you'll already know what you can do with your voice, so on the fly without practicing, you can just kind of go, oh yeah, I can get something close to that. So, the other thing I can tell you is, Like, you can do like celebrity impressions or whatever. It's completely to taste. It's just, everybody's seen a movie and it's like, oh man, I'd love to use a badass line like that. Try it. Try like practicing it. Again, the car is everyone sounds great in the car. The acoustics are fantastic in your car. I don't know if anyone who's ever sang in the car knows that it's basically a little recording studio. That's what it is. So give that a shot. If you play in person with other people, just give it a shot. Like, give it your all. Don't back down. Don't half-ass it, because if you really throw everything in behind it, people will most likely get a sense that you tried with it, or you put some effort into it, and they'll cut you some slack. I hope that helps. If you have any more detailed questions, pop them in the comments below. If you have a suggestion for a future episode of Brainstorm, again, pop it in the comments below, or send us an email at dnrpodcast@gmail.com. That's DAND or podcast@gmail.com. Or myself or Robert Wiesahan will answer it. And I will see you